Do you think that it's possible to assign a monetary value to mental health? Just think about it. Is there a good price to pay for a person's mental well being? And if so, what is it? Although you might not be able to come up with a figure on your own, companies like Google and Facebook and YouTube have been able to. They have decided that keeping their platforms clean, safe, profitable would be worth around $18 an hour for the people in America who do that. And for the people who are doing that same job in India, the Philippines, Colombia, much, much less. Today we're talking about content moderators, the people who watch the worst of the internet so you don't have to.
I used to work for Facebook, and my job was to spend 8 hours a day looking at all the worst things that people post online so that you don't have to see it.
And guess what? You have never heard of them. They don't get a LinkedIn badge or a company lanyard. In academic research, they are referred to as ghost workers. And once you understand what the term actually means, I think you're going to start looking at your internet usage a little differently. Let's get started. If you went on LinkedIn now and you search for a content moderation job, here's what you'll find. Titles like Trust and Safety Specialist, Community Standards Reviewer, Policy Operations Analyst. The language is clean, corporate, and carefully chosen. These roles are framed as guardians of the internet, protectors of the digital community. Although they do mention how the job would entail looking at inappropriate, outdated, insensitive material, they may also not be giving a full picture of just how detrimental to a person's mental health watching this kind of content continuously may do. Platforms love to emphasize the role of automation here as well. The story they tell goes something like this. AI flags the bad stuff first and then a human reviews it just to double check. As a Bumble content moderator described it, the machine learning software detects certain words or images, triggers the system, and then a human verifies whether the flag is valid. Sounds very administrative, doesn't it? Almost like a filing job. Meta says it employs around 15,000 moderators. TikTok says that they employ around 40,000, but those are the numbers that they're willing to share publicly. The real total, including the outsourced and subcontracted workers, would likely be in the hundreds of thousands. So what does this mean? The branding is polished, but the reality is something else entirely.
Find out what my target is for the day, press the button, just go, and the first piece of content, boom, it's just there on the screen in front of you. You take a look, you make a decision, you press a couple of buttons, it goes away, and the next one loads, and the next one, and the next one. And you are seeing dead bodies and murders, or people celebrating having killed somebody. Dogs being barbecued alive.
Graphic violence, hate speech, sexual solicitation, sexual exploitation.
In 2021, YouTube reported deleting 120,000 sexually explicit videos involving children in just the first 6 months of the year. Each of those videos was viewed by a human being. Research on Bumble's moderation operation found that workers were expected to process 100 reports per hour. That's one every 36 seconds. Sarah T. Roberts, whose book Behind the Screen is one of the most important pieces of research about the subject, spent 8 years studying this workforce. She describes the internet as, and I'm paraphrasing this, fundamentally a site of control, surveillance, and the circulation of information as a commodity. Content moderators are the people who maintain that surface. They absorb all of the violence and all of the filth so that the feed stays clean. That is the job. So, this is where the story becomes even more uncomfortable. Because most of this work isn't happening in California. It's been deliberately, systemically outsourced to countries in what researchers describe as the global south. So that includes India, Kenya, the Philippines, Colombia, and Venezuela. The logic from a business perspective is straightforward. Labor is cheaper, regulations are weaker, and workers with fewer economic options are less likely to push back. Mary Gray and Siddharth Suri, in their landmark book, ghost work, gave a name to this invisible labor force, the humans who sit inside automated systems doing the work that keeps AI functioning while being structurally hidden from the companies and consumers who benefit, such as you and I. A study by Oxford's Fair Work Project found that workers on these platforms earn around an average of $2 to $3 per hour. Some earn even less. So this is the story of Mansumi Murmu. This is the article that I stumbled upon that influenced me to choose this particular topic. Mansumi is 26 years old from Jharkhand in rural India. She works for an international tech firm which reviews content that is flagged by AI. This content includes videos, images, text, and she decides what's harmful so that the AI can learn to do it by itself. She reviews up to 800 pieces of content per day, and her monthly pay is £330. The Guardian spoke to her earlier this year. She said, "For the first few months, I couldn't sleep. I would close my eyes and still see the screen loading." She describes nightmares, images of accidents, death, sexual violence recurring long after the shift ended. In the end, she said, "You feel blank." She is not an exception. She is the system working as designed. And this is where the academic theory becomes really useful, because two thinkers in particular help explain why this structure exists and why it keeps reproducing itself. The first is Michel Foucault and his concept of disciplinary power. Foucault argued that power in modern society doesn't punish, it surveils, it monitors, it controls productivity. For content moderators in the Global South, this includes algorithmic performance dashboards, strict quotas, and the constant sense of being watched and measured. And the second thinker is Shoshana Zuboff, who coined the term surveillance capitalism. The idea that behavior is turned into a commodity, into data, and it is later on used for profit. For these workers, as one academic article puts it, their lives are commodified twice. Once through their labor, and again through the data their work generates to train the very AI systems that they're feeding. So this isn't just exploitation. Scholars increasingly call it digital colonialism, the extraction of labor and resources from formerly colonized populations to sustain innovation and profit in the global north. As one LSE researcher put it, this technology risks completing what colonialism started. So we need to take some time to think about the challenges that this type of work brings. So the first challenge I identified, and the main reason why I wanted to talk about this, is that there is so much psychological trauma that is caused to these workers, and there is no safety net built for them within the system. The mental health consequences of this work are extensively documented. Depression, PTSD, anxiety disorders, panic attacks, emotional numbing, these are common outcomes for long-term moderators. Even those that were provided with in-house counseling and were referred to therapists. In 2020, Facebook paid a $52 million settlement to thousands of American moderators suffering long-term mental health damage. But in India and across the Global South, these protections largely don't exist. Indian labor law doesn't formally recognize psychological damage from digital work. There are no compensation pathways, no legal protections. Many moderators are also bound by NDAs. And these non-disclosure agreements are kind of also what holds them back and prevents them from telling even their families what they do for a living and how difficult it is. There's no one to share these challenges with or to ask for support. This enforced silence makes the trauma even worse. Of the 8 content moderation companies investigated by The Guardian in India, only 2 provided any psychological support for their workers. The second challenge would be the quotas. They are a problem, and it's really grim because as AI gets better at filtering content, the material that reaches human moderators become more extreme. because the AI has already handled the easy stuff. The Global Trade Union Alliance of Content Moderators, which was launched in 2025 and backed by UNI Global Union, surveyed moderators across 6 countries and found that over 80% said their employer needed to do more to support their mental health. And yet platforms set the quotas, the training procedures, the tools while outsourcing legal liability through third-party contracts. The distance between corporate responsibility and worker reality is deliberately structurally built in. And the third challenge would be the cultural blind spots. And this is where I really got sucked in. Obviously, that iceberg of digital colonialism. That is a third dimension that I believe doesn't get talked about enough. Research has shown that AI moderation systems frequently misclassify entirely benign content in non-Western contexts, while simultaneously failing to catch actual harm in non-English languages. In 2024, Instagram was found to automatically be hiding comments containing the phrase Allahu Akbar, which is an everyday expression of joy and gratitude, as it was flagging it as an extremist phrase. The very workers being hired to moderate these systems are not given the time to make culturally informed decisions. Speed is valued over accuracy. Through this very grim and pessimistic video, what could there be as an opportunity? So this is where I found that the EU's Digital Services Act is beginning to create legal frameworks that hold platforms accountable for the conditions of their outsourced workers, not just their direct employees. In Kenya, workers have launched the Data Labelers Association, fighting for better pay and mental health support. In Turkey, moderators attempted to unionize against a TikTok contractor. In Kenya and Ghana, Meta faces active workers' rights lawsuits. The Global Trade Union Alliance is pushing 8 concrete demands: exposure limits, realistic quotas, 24/7 counseling access, living wages, and the right to collectively bargain. The question is whether this momentum moves fast enough and whether it can reach workers in Jharkhand as effectively as it might in Brussels.